InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Penny Fisher. Welcome, Penny.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
Penny Fisher is a mom, wife, daughter, sister, and friend who experienced a catastrophic illness 7.5 years ago. Penny fell prey to TSS, or toxic shock syndrome. Penny's near-death experience dramatically changed the entire course of her life. Penny uses her brush with death to prepare others, to inspire others to recover and live each day to the fullest. So what was the catastrophic event that happened 7.5 years ago?
I suffered toxic shock syndrome, and it was kind of a perfect storm of events that led to that.
Were you here in Illinois when it happened?
No, I was traveling with my family, still in the country, still in the United States, but not home.
Okay.
And I fell ill suddenly and was told to go to a healing clinic, an emergency clinic.
Called your insurance company?
No, I actually was staying next door. I had 2 little kids, a first grader and a third grader. And next door to me, my sister-in-law was staying at the condominium next to us. We were enjoying a Thanksgiving family vacation. And really, I just fell ill like that morning. I was trying to pack the bags, and I couldn't really go on. And she saw that I was shaking with a fever, and so she called my husband to come home and get me, my husband at the time. And he took me to the nearest emergency clinic, who then promptly put me on a gurney and sent me to the emergency room. And at the emergency room, I was sleeping, and the doctor misdiagnosed me and kind of missed me.
And what was your initial diagnosis?
Really, he couldn't find anything. He thought that I was perfectly fine. My fever had gone down because of the fever reducer, but my fever was almost 105, and my pulse was below 50. But somehow I got overlooked. You know.
Did they call in an expert, or?
No. And normally, toxic shock could be treated by antibiotics. And normally, when you're that sick and they don't know what's going on, they put you up to an antibiotic IV. And that wasn't done. And that would have been, I think, the silver bullet that would have helped my whole case.
Okay. And so, can you tell the audience the symptoms of toxic shock syndrome, and were you aware of the symptoms when you initially had them?
No. You know what? At that point, I really couldn't think clearly, and toxic shock syndrome hadn't been in the news since, I think, the 80s. And at the time the toxic shock was in the news, I think that a lot of tampons might have been recalled, and there was some work done, and things were looking up from there, trying to be safer about, what we women use. And, it's still out there, because when I did recover, I would say 1 out of every 5 people knew somebody that had toxic shock recently. But the good news is that once it's treated, it's usually pretty benign. I mean, not really benign, but compared to what I went through.
And so if it's caught early enough, people...
If your body responds to the antibiotics, yes.
Have you ever heard of a man getting toxic shock?
Yes, I have. I'm pretty friendly with my infectious disease doctor, and he's always telling me, this man or this child had toxic shock, and I just came back from the hospital. So usually they have to call in an infectious disease doctor when something's inexplicable and moving quickly. It's usually something like toxic shock.
Okay. Is your current health condition related to anything the hospital did or didn't do?
Well, I'm not supposed to really discuss that kind of particulars about the hospital.
Okay.
But I will say that my life's been forever altered because of the actual injuries that I've had.
Okay.
It's never gone away. It will never go away.
And before the show, you put on some prosthetic fingers.
Yes, right in front of you.
Yeah.
I bet you that doesn't happen with all your guests.
It's never happened before.
Okay.
And I've been doing this show for 20 years. And do you have any other prosthetics?
My right foot is a prosthetic foot. My left leg is a prosthetic leg below the knee. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
so excuse me that I was a few minutes late, but it takes a while to put myself together.
Well, and I did tell the 5 members of our team that are here tonight to produce the show that you might have some lingering disabilities.
Yeah.
Because of TSS.
Yes. Yes. It derailed my life. I mean, in some way, it doesn't. Everything that happens, whether it's a tragedy or not, you have to look at both sides. There's pluses and minuses, checks and balances. It was hard because it derailed my life, and my 18-year marriage imploded as a result. But life is still good, and I'm learning so much.
Mm-hmm. And what happened? Did you go to the hospital a second time after you were misdiagnosed?
3 times, yeah.
Okay, so what happened the second time and the third time?
Well, the second time I went to a private doctor that was affiliated with the hospital, and he told me, yes, you're sick, and yes, you can't get on an airplane, but bad news is they don't have a bed for you. I said, what? He said, they don't have a bed, you'll just have to wait. And then I waited the 3 or 4 hours in excruciating mind-bending pain, and by the time they did drive me back, I was unconscious and put on life support.
And this is the third trip to the
yeah,
hospital?
The third time I was on life support, and they didn't need to wait for a bed because I had my own wing. I had it was above,
because at that point they don't know what
CCU.
They're dealing with.
Right.
And they're afraid that you may be infectious.
Right.
Can you contact or develop toxic shock syndrome from somebody?
No, but I could have gotten sick from other people because I was, my immune system was down.
No, that's a very good point. And you mentioned other men get it. So what other ways do people get toxic shock syndrome? Toxic
shock, from what I understand, is the umbrella for a blood infection that's ravaged out of control, and it's shutting down your main arteries, main, parts.
Well, I've noticed you've got prosthetics on your fingers, your foot, and your lower leg. It seems that the farther away you are from the heart, the more severe the injury is.
Well, they actually had to take, at that point, they had to take the blood flow. There was actually a shot called a vasopressor. They took the blood flow away from my extremities purposely to save my heart and lungs. So they actually told my loved ones that was going to be a direct result, like life over limb, literally.
Okay.
So they said, go ahead and do what you need to do.
And were you conscious at this time?
No.
So you couldn't make the decisions for yourself?
No. But anybody would make the decision, go ahead, I would think.
Yes.
If their heart and their lungs were at risk. So.
Okay. And then the doctors induced a coma?
Right away. I was, in such severe pain and agonized and couldn't sit or stand. I couldn't get comfortable.
Mm-hmm. And so what was your experience while you were in the coma? Do you recall anything?
Yes. I recall a lot of dreams. I think I was picking up, people ask all the time if their loved ones can hear them when they're in a coma. They can. Mm-hmm. Like I recognize voices, I would hear their conversations, and it would integrate into the dreams.
And did you try to communicate with these people that
were
in the room?
No. I was aware that there was a serious incident going on, and I knew I was the main player, but I didn't know exactly what was going on.
Well, I once worked with a gentleman that was in a coma for 3 months.
3 months was my,
And he said that he had to make a decision whether to live or die. He was given a choice.
Oh my God, that was me too.
We'll get into that. He says he chose to live, and he knew I liked hearing his story, and I never got tired of listening to it. But he described his experience in a coma as like the movie All That Jazz about Bob Fosse. You're familiar with it?
I love that movie. I've watched it a lot. Yeah.
So tell me that when you were given a choice whether to die or come back to life,
mine was, I don't even know if I remember taking the choice. I just remember that at one point there was a narrator, and the voice was sounding louder and clearer, and it was talking about this being that was so beautiful and so unbelievably full of love and full of light, and like in their presence, it's like every man, woman, and child wants to be in this person's aura. Mm-hmm. And as that narration was going, I saw myself walking through an English garden, white picket fence, very almost relatable, but it was like this beautiful Beatles music that was getting louder and louder, and I almost had like an ecstatic moment, and it stopped right there, and I remember realizing that I had the kids, and I kind of was turned back away from wherever rapture I was going towards. And I did remember my kids, and then at some point, this man came in and said, "Is Penny Fisher here?" And I said, "I am." And he snapped his fingers, and all the lights and noise went back on. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when I started being a part of what was going on outside of me. Like I was part of my own recovery.
And so you kind of like was more grounded in your own body?
Yes. Yes.
Do you know if the doctors changed your medicine?
They didn't, but...
So that you would come out of the coma then?
No. What happened was there was a young doctor that was telling them that I was going to be on dialysis for the rest of my life. And
has that turned out true?
No. No. What happened was after I had that vision, it was like everything went back on. Like it was really almost crazy.
Your body started to function again?
Function again.
Do you ever try to vividly recall what you saw and heard and felt?
I've written about it. A lot of it was pertinent to what was going on, but like I remember a dream that we were all on bleachers, and if I sat too close to the window, I'd be shot, and so I had to like hide behind other people or go to the middle of the bleachers. And then it was the same with a flowing river. If I went up too far in the river, I would not make it home alive, so I would keep trying to turn the raft around. Mm-hmm. So it was those kind of visions.
And do you think there was some symbolism or meaning?
Yes.
Have you figured that out, or you want to share
that?
I
think just, you hear about people losing their will to live. I think that it's about your will and your energy. And mm-hmm. I mean, I wish that there was somebody that I could talk to more seriously about it, because it was obviously a defining life moment that I'm still trying to figure out. But I think that you have the will to live or you don't, and when you have the will, you can kind of make it through anything. I mean, my doctors said it was like less than 10% for my odds to live. My pulse was so low for so long, and there were so many problems.
But your brain hasn't been damaged?
No. And they thought that was the first thing that they thought it would happen. I woke up with clear memory and everything.
That's great. And by the way, there's at Evanston Hospital, there's an International Association for Near-Death Experience.
I would like to know more about that, honestly, because
I'll put
7.5 years, and I feel like kind of a newborn with this whole thing still. I
Well,
don't really have.
I've had a near-death experience, and
wanna hear
I've
about it,
spoken.
too.
I've spoken at the organization. But
Do you remember being given the choice as well, or? how
well,
does it-
I was a child, and so I had an older sister who had died before me, and she had
Sorry.
come to me, and she said, "Jay, go back. It's not my time." And I really believe I would have died right then and there if my sister hadn't come to me.
She didn't want to leave, destroy your parents even worse, probably.
Yes.
Were you the only child? Are
Oh
you still?
no. At the time, I had another sister, but anyway, so it just was a defining moment for me. Now, as
How old were you?
I was 6 or 7, but from my experience, I don't have a fear of death,
I don't either.
and I've got other fears and other things I'm concerned about, but not death. And you want to elaborate how your experience took away your fear of death?
Right. I don't know that I was ever really afraid of dying like some people are, they're afraid to fly or they have some fears. I'm pretty fearless and always have been. I think that being given that glimpse was a gift because I could say to people that loved ones are hanging in there, maybe unnecessarily because their bodies are gone and their mind is gone and they're hanging in there. And I could say, with clarity that it's when you pass away, all your worries, all your fear, the unbearable lightness of being. I mean, you're just a being up there.
Well,
So
what I remember about my near-death experience was how blissful it felt.
that's what I'm saying. The rapture, mine was such a split second. I remember it was a funny thing. I love the Beatles. And the girls, my girlfriends all had the John Lennon biography sitting by my bed. So I was thinking that she was reading from the biography when this whole narration was happening. So when I did wake up, which was shortly after that vision, I kept asking everybody to read me that verse again, and nobody found it, and they didn't know what I was talking about.
And
So I thought it was a verse from the book. And so what I'm saying is that feeling felt so good, and it was such a fleeting second of a moment that I wanted to get it back, and I couldn't. So I'm sure, like you said, it's that bliss that
right.
a lot of people would reach for that and go that way. I mean,
Well,
I knew coming back was going to be a challenge. I didn't know how, but I knew.
but that those few moments of bliss, it
Few
gives
seconds,
you,
few-
yeah, it gives you the strength to carry on because you know that we're
You really
much
go
more.
to a better place, right?
Yeah, we're much more than our day-to-day lives.
Or we'll see our loved ones again, or I didn't have anybody come to me. I didn't have those visions. The people that were coming to me in my coma were the living people that were
Yeah.
coming around.
Well, I think God gives us what we need to get through the experience. Perfectly gives us what we need.
I just had a memory that it was interesting. That's why I smiled. And it just came to me now that at the end of the whole, like whatever I needed to get through to come back to life, I remember about 5 loved ones coming from corners of like a cathedral, like floating from the corners saying, "Congratulations, you made it, I'm proud of you." And I was like, what are they so proud of? And they were all hugging me, and it was a very, again, blissful time. And
Was
that
that
was
close to when you came out of the coma?
Yeah. It was like the congratulations, you've made it kind of through this crazy hell, that heaven and hell that you've gone through.
And what happened when you awoke from your coma?
I was literally like a newborn chick because, chick meaning a little baby chicken. I was bald and I was 50 pounds lighter than I am now, so I was unhealthy and way
Almost
too
anorexic.
thin. Or just bones.
Yeah.
And no hair, and you're shaking because you're so weak. And I mean, it was like being a newborn chick. And I had all sorts of goals that I had to meet before I could even think about going home to my children.
And what was going on with your children? Would your children visit you in the hospital?
What happened was, so that day that I got sick, they flew home with their relatives, and they weren't told much. Nobody knew much, and it was a scary time. And they went home, and they had family take care of them, but there were no answers. And my daughter especially had a very, very, very hard time with the whole thing and was begging for answers, and nobody had them. And then,
meaning they didn't even know at that point what had happened to you?
right. And they were like, she was saying, what happened to my mom? It had to be scary. Just one day you're with your mom, the next day you're sent home on an airplane, and there's no news of your mom, and you haven't seen her in 3 months.
And at what
They
point?
said she's very sick, but nobody knew. The kids didn't know I was dying and what was really going on, that I was in a coma. But when my daughter finally did see me when I woke up, it was so upsetting because I didn't look like myself that they didn't come back for a while. I had to kind of pull myself together to have another meeting. My son was able to deal with it, but my daughter couldn't.
Yeah, and at what point did they actually say you had toxic shock syndrome?
When I woke up, that's what my in-laws told me, that I had had toxic shock syndrome. But I think people found out within the first 24 hours. You know, toxic shock turned into septic shock, turned into pneumonia, turned into, you name it, that was going through my body.
Mm-hmm. And then, is there anything else that occurred once you awoke?
I just had to relearn how to sit, eat, walk, talk, read. I mean, I had a trach in my throat, so
A tube down your throat.
and I couldn't really talk. And I had holes in my back of my head from being still on a pillow for 3 months.
Holes? They didn't
like,
drill holes?
No, it was like it went all the way from the skin of my head to my actual brain. It was like horrible bed sores. That were like,
And so all this time you were in, was it Arizona?
no, California.
Oh, California. So you're separated from your family by...
Well, actually, after 3 weeks, I was flown back to Northwestern.
Okay. Okay, so at least same town,
Yeah.
same state as your family. And your parents still alive?
No, thank God.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want them to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I would have made it out without all the damage, all the collateral damage of having, amputations in every part of my extremities, I think it would have been, like you could leave that behind. But because it had so much damage done, like I'm so glad my parents weren't here to see. Or they probably saw from wherever
above.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah. And they probably knew you'd be all right.
Yes.
And so walking must be difficult with a prosthetic foot and a
Yes.
prosthetic lower leg. Does that cause pain in the hips or
Yes.
knees,
Yes.
back?
Yes. I mean, every step, every effort that I make is painful and difficult, 5 times harder, and you have to think about every little thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely hard, but sometimes I even manage to forget that it's all going on. If I'm having fun and I'm with loved ones and we're laughing, I could really lose myself in the moment and not really. I think what I've heard from other people like myself is that you could live parallel to pain and put that in a capsule, which I do. And just kind of, it's there, and I feel it, but it's numb. I'm numb to it sometimes.
Do you use any pain management techniques?
Yes.
Can you share that with the audience?
Well, some of it's just yoga and deep breathing and reading and.
Oh, do you go to yoga classes?
Yes.
Oh, that must be awesome.
Yes.
I remember going many times to a yoga studio in Chicago, and a woman had was missing one leg, and she would do everything.
Yeah, I could do everything. I do need to kind of stand near a wall or a block and center myself, but yeah, I could do it all.
And meditation?
Yes,
Do you do that every day?
of course. I was doing it right before I came here.
Okay.
So it's a good reboot.
Yeah, and besides yoga and meditation, breathing, any other pain management techniques?
Having a little drink here and there. No, I'm
Okay.
teasing.
It's
or
it's
just,
healthy.
Yeah.
It-
I think it's just the best medicine for me is family and friends.
Okay. Was there anything you could have done to prevent contracting toxic shock syndrome?
Sometimes, like, we all look to blame ourselves sometimes, and it was such a major, disaster that I visited that. Like, was it my fault because the tampon might have been contaminated? It was in my purse and I was traveling. Did I not take my supplements, my vitamins enough? Like, I used to always get sick when I travel because I'd run out of vitamins or I'd have the wrong something. So some of that, but no, it was caused from the strep A virus, and it's a deadly virus, and some people don't have the antibodies to fight it, and I would have never known that I didn't have the antibodies. They say that strep can live in your body or on your body, and if it goes into your bloodstream, it's a killer.
And how are your two children doing today?
They're great. I mean, honestly, they somehow are amazing.
And how, I know you mentioned it earlier, but how old are they today?
So 17 and 15. My boy is 17, my girl's 15. It's been hard work. I mean, it was hard work.
And do you find that they value their own lives more because of what happened to you?
Probably. And they probably value me more than, they're very respectful. Teens usually go through that disrespectful time, but I have not witnessed that yet.
And because of your injuries, they probably, are they willing to help you, more
Yes.
than the average teenager?
Yeah. I mean, actually they could be better, but they're not walking on eggshells, which is good.
Yeah.
We got a little puppy, like in the meantime, maybe it was 4 years ago, and that puppy is demanding in terms that he wants a walk for 20 minutes twice a day. So we used to have arguments, who's going to walk the dog, and I wound up walking the dog, but now, they're helping out. They never really say no anymore.
And is it hard for you to walk 20 minutes straight?
Yeah. I love that dog so much, but yeah, and like sometimes in the morning when I have to face my leg, when I'm laying there and I see my prosthetic leg, it's almost like I have to I almost have to meditate before I get up and start my day because the emotional and physical exhaustion of even thinking about it. Starts my
when
day
you say
with,
meditate, you want to empty your mind, or you're just trying to feel God's presence?
all of it.
Yeah.
I just need to regroup and think about, gather the strength.
And do you find you have more gratitude today?
Yes. What I find is that I tell people that I like greatly, that I don't even know that much, I love you. I'm big on the I love yous because you just never know when you'll see somebody again.
All right. I think we've got to wrap it up. So for more information about Penny Fisher, the Infinity Foundation Inner Quest Talk Show, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good fortune, and good spirits. Penny, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, I'm sure we could have talked another half hour.
Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.